One more ride in the RB19 tomorrow around the track. Will you be sad to see it go after such a record-breaking season?
I'm afraid that I will always look back on the RB19 as my most successful car. So, yeah, it's going to be probably a little bit emotional when you jump out for the last time, knowing that you're not, going to be in it again and thinking about what you have achieved throughout the whole year. But that's how life goes. You move on, and hopefully next year the car will be a rocket again.
This is Max Verstappen after spending his last race with the RB19 in Abu Dhabi. As you can tell, bro was emotional. Like, look at him, bro. He did not want to leave that thing behind. And even though hearing the Dutch national anthem every single race has given me PTSD, I can at least relate to the nostalgia. Because this is like those FIFA games you have to leave behind as soon as the new one comes out. I remember having to say goodbye to FIFA 15, and bro, this was one of the saddest days of my life. I guarantee I can trigger a bunch of you guys' nostalgia by just playing this. So from that perspective, I can understand what Max fans must be going through right now. Coming off the most dominant season in the history of Formula 1, seeing the team fall off this bad must be worse than having a hangover. Red Bull have lost a number of key personnel. Rob Marshall, Jonathan Wheatley, Adrian Newey, and they might be at risk of losing arguably their biggest asset, Max Verstappen. I was listening back to some interviews from the start of the season just to remind myself of what everyone's thoughts were ahead of 2024. And in this clip, Max gets told about some comments Andrea Stella made about him. Take a listen.
Andrea Stella said a lovely thing yesterday. He said, even if we at McLaren build as good a car as the Red Bull, think about their driver.
I've got to pay big respect to the McLaren team principal. I can see it, I feel it.
He's cooking.
And quick side note, if I'm Oscar Orlando, I'd be getting tired as hell, bruh. Because if my boss was like, even if we build a car that's good enough, y'all are still going to get posterized, I would have left the team immediately. To be honest though, Andrea was spitting facts. So before we get into Verstappen's F1 future, we got to review the on-track battles. I swear, there was a stretch of races where it didn't matter what situation you put this man in, ISO, double team, quadruple team, he still came out on top. Imola qualifies on pole after getting a beast of a tow from Hülkenberg and holds off Norris to win by just 7/10 of a second. First ISO in the bag. Canada drops down to third initially, but once he gets to the front, you could pretty much call it game, set and match. And in this race, anyone from George, Lando, Oscar or Lewis could have won. But Max was really out to prove Stella right. He wanted to reward the loyalty. Spain chain snatches Norris at the start after getting pushed onto the grass, then swoops around the outside of Russell to reclaim P1. And from there, he drives off into the sunset. The post-race press conference was too funny to me, man. Lando's like, I left you enough space. Is there space in the room with us? He had two multi-world champions pulling their eyes out with laughter at this stupidity. Like, are you not ashamed of yourself? Austria, he gets double teamed and he's just like, light work, and proceeds to pull off one of the cleanest overtakes I've seen from him. Like, oh, this is what I've been trying to see, Max. This is way better than you just cruising out in front. But after that, we never get to see another win from him again. McLaren's car got even faster, Lewis found his form again, and recently, Ferrari have turned up to join. All the while Red Bull haven't been progressing. The reason Red Bull have been struggling actually dates back to the start of 2022. Fundamentally, they've always generated downforce by running the car as stiff, pause, and as low to the ground as possible. Last year, there were flashpoints where Max complained about the stiffness being a limitation on tracks like Monaco and Singapore, but most of the time their advantage was so big it didn't make a difference. Now though, other teams have caught up and this Red Bull weakness is being exposed a lot more. There was also one moment at the start of the season when Max said that he would leave if Marco left, and it was at that point the Mercedes rumours started. Max being his direct and honest self, this was a firm warning that if everyone kept beefing, he'd be out. Look at my man's face, he is not playing around. Horner probably listened to that interview and when he next saw Max was like,
Wait, let me tell you something, Let me tell you something.
But in one man's sorrow is another man's joy. With Verstappen expressing his displeasure with the Red Bull state of affairs, Toto came swooping in. And if you thought me glazing Charles and Lewis was bad, just wait till you hear how down bad this man was. Because there has not been a single weekend this season that has gone by without him begging for Max's attention. This man was really like, I'm waiting for him, and then proceeded to get aired. Pro was really in a one-sided conversation. Over the summer break though, Toto finally managed to land a date, but sadly for him, things didn't work out, and he decided to promote another prodigy instead. This is really the kind of greed they be talking about in the Bible. My guy already has two incredibly talented young drivers and is still out here simping for someone who's already tied down. I ain't never seen someone this thirsty in my life. The door to Mercedes is still open for Verstappen, probably in 2026 when the new regulations come in. If the team pulls off another 2014 like they've been teasing, I fear it may be Jova. But at the same time, Toto can overhype and underdeliver. Remember the end of 2021? Everybody has a target on their backs. And then Mercedes came out with a double better. Same thing with McLaren Honda back in 2015. Ron Dennis promised Fernando the world, and look how that ended. You know what, Alonso's McLaren Honda era is a pretty good video idea, let me write that down. I'm pretty sure this is something Max must be thinking about when he's deciding what he wants to do for his future. Like, Red Bull is obviously a sinking ship, so Mercedes does make the most sense, but at the same time, he could get debated and be in an even worse car than before. Literally nobody knows what will happen in 2026, but still, it makes for an interesting conversation about the dynamic between Max and whoever his teammate could be. And most likely, it'll be Russell who has to move aside, which is so peak, man. Bro doesn't deserve that. Seriously, if George gets car lost,
my disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
I really need to see him and Max fight it out in the same car. George has always been someone who doesn't back down from a challenge. In fact, he said himself that if he were to choose anyone on the grid to be his teammate, it would be Max, as he's the best driver on the grid right now. Plus, they've had some amazing duels, like remember Barcelona 22 or Baku 23. George really has that champion's mindset as well. He's come into Mercedes and really proved his worth against the greatest ever. Max was quite subdued when asked about his meeting with Toto. Played a perfect poker face, and I liked it. Because why does he need to air out his business? Keeping his cards close to his chest is the smartest possible thing you can do in this situation. Meanwhile, Toto was too excited to not start chirping. One thing I got from it was that they seem to be compatible. Max is a no BS kind of guy, Toto's the same, but at the same time, Max wouldn't be prioritized at any other team like he is at Red Bull. His other option is going to Aston Martin, and for obvious reasons, Adrian Newey is there. For a man that can literally see air move, wherever he goes, he is an incredibly valuable asset. Red Bull really fumbled a bad deal. And that situation is just as interesting as the Mercedes one. Would Lawrence really fire his own son? Well, no, obviously he wouldn't. But that doesn't mean Fernando has to leave. You see, good old Nando has a contract till 2026, so technically he's tied down until then. And with Aston Martin entering the World Endurance Championship with the masterpiece of a car that is the Valkyrie, Lance can still compete at a global stage while contributing to the family business. All the while we'll have a Verstappen Alonso driver lineup in 2026. And the things I would do to see Hamilton and Leclerc against Alonso and Verstappen. This is quite literally the perfect matchup. I don't care if the FIA has to intervene and rig the championship to have the Ferrari and the Aston be the best cars. Make it happen. Also, this video of him driving the Valkyrie is pretty cool. Bro looks like he's controlling a fighter jet. And this person really titled their video, Max Verstappen could get prosecuted for driving at 120 kilometers an hour. Or in Logan Sargent terms, 75 miles an hour. I wonder how Max Verstappen is going to cope with a 100-pound fine. And also, another thing with Aston is that in 2026, they're going to be powered by none other than Honda. For Max, that's music to his ears. But for Alonso, that's reliving a nightmare. On a real though, Lawrence Stroll is so serious about his business, I wouldn't be surprised to see this happen. What I would be surprised to see though, is if he stays at Red Bull. Because honestly, I don't see what he would see in that team that would possibly make him want to continue there. Over the course of this season, things have just been getting worse. Bad pit stops, bad strategies, wrong setup, car doesn't even turn. Max was looking depressed after Monza qualifying. He could not believe this generational fall off. In his words, from the most dominant car into a monster. And I'm no Verstappen fan, but I can appreciate how he's reacted to the situation, trying to find a solution rather than dwelling on the problem. I'm pretty sure this past week, he's been locked up in the simulator trying to figure out what the hell went wrong in Monza. So we'll see if the work has paid off this weekend or if it'll be another disaster class. But it's kind of funny how Max is now in the same position Lewis has been in for the past 2 years. His team not listening to him, correlation issues between their wind tunnel and on track, driving a tractor around and carrying the load of experimental setups. And to the people that mocked Lewis at the time for it, where are you lot now? You really thought I was going to let you slide?
No.
In their current state, Red Bull doesn't win any of the remaining races. And thankfully for him, his biggest threat right now is McLaren and Norris. Because if you put Charles, Lewis, Fernando or Sargent in that car, the championship is done by Vegas. Honestly, if they don't get these balance issues sorted out, every single race until the end of the year is going to be a huge struggle. Something needs to change. Max has been pushing the team to wake up recently, suggesting that internally, people aren't on the same page. And if he is to stay, then Red Bull will need to give him a reason to. Finally, he could just call it quits and retire early, like he's been talking about for so long now. Seriously, this man has been yapping about wanting to compete in endurance racing, sim racing, literally any kind of racing. It's all the guy ever does. Eat, sleep, race, repeat. He's achieved a lot already in Formula 1. Everything he could have ever dreamed of. Why would he stay if he wants to go out and try other series to succeed in those? which I think he definitely could. There's been talks of him, Leclerc and Alonso teaming up for Le Mans, which honestly just sounds unfair, bruh. This is like the US men's Olympic basketball team. The rest of the competition is cooked. And like Kimi Räikkönen, Max absolutely despises media, to the point where he's trolling 50% of the time,
If my mom had balls, she would be my dad.
crashing out 49% of the time,
Already stop about this because we had so many questions about this.
and 1% of the time actually taking it seriously. But he's been consistent in his stance towards a lot of the BS that comes with the press in Formula 1. He mostly just cares about the racing. Honestly, if things worsen enough, I can see him taking a year out and just coming back in 2026 if he wants. But ultimately, it's his choice. He also hates sprints, and Domenicali is hell-bent on not just adding more sprints, but doing reverse grids. He's also said he doesn't even like the 2026 cars after driving them in the simulator. And to add to that, Zandvoort has an uncertain future and may potentially disappear from the calendar after 2025. If Max does end up winning this championship, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Nico Rosberg type situation, where he just announces his retirement out of nowhere, be it temporary or permanent. Who knows, maybe he'll finally go and have his 1v1 against Carl Larson. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you think about Verstappen's future in the comment section below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you're new to get my latest videos in the future. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.